Australia is now getting added to the list of nations who restrict social media usage for their children. In a bold step, the Australian government is now mulling to introduce a legislation to ban children under 16 years of age from social media. This legislation will be introduced into the parliament this year, and the law is likely to come into effect in 12 months after it is ratified by the lawmakers. This includes no Instagram, no Facebook, no TikTok for the children. And there are no exceptions. Even if you have given out a parental consent, then too it is a big no. But there are no penalties as of now, not even on the parents in case they allow their kids knowingly or unknowingly to use social media. The onus entirely lies on the social media platforms to prevent access to those under 16 years of age. The impacted platforms likely include Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and YouTube. This move, remember, aims to protect the young citizens from the potential harms of social media amid concerns over its impact on mental health and concentration. Earlier, Faith Gordon spoke with Mirror Now. Take a listen to what exactly Australia is planning and how this move might affect children.
Well, the Australian federal government announced after one of the states had an inquiry into social media and a number of proposals about new legislation. It's now become an Australia-wide concern for the federal government. And today we received more details about what a ban of social media for those that are 16 and under might look like. And we've received a bit more information today from our Prime Minister, Albanese, on this. He has outlined, along with the Communications Minister, Michelle Rowland, that the onus of enforcement of the ban would be put onto the social media platforms. They've said that there would be measures put in place to ensure that the platforms were taking reasonable steps to ensure that an age limit is complied with. They mentioned that Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X would all be covered by the ban, and that YouTube would also likely fall within that definition as well.
All right, Faith Gordon, of course, a National University lawyer. Can you also elaborate on what are the pressures which can be created if children are separated from their families?
Well, I have conducted research with children, with young people, with their parents, and with advocates, and with police, and with victim support, and with other professionals who are working on the issue of online harms. Children and young people have reported that online social media platforms are very beneficial for them to interact with their friends, to communicate with people locally or internationally, to educate themselves on social issues, to connect with others that are campaigning on issues such as climate change and climate action or gender rights. But also children and young people have talked about how negative online spaces have been. They often talk about how toxic they are and about the unwanted content that the algorithms are pushing to them on the social media platforms. They also talk about unwanted contact. So that is someone perhaps posing as a child, but they're an adult, and contacting the young person online. These are big issues for children and young people. We've also seen in Australia, there has been an international report to show that Australian children's data has been scraped and used by AI companies to train the artificial intelligence without children, young people, or their parents' and guardians' permission. So we know that there are huge issues with the collection, distribution of children's data more broadly by platforms, and this has been brought forward as a major concern here in Australia.
Is such a proposal even feasible, Faith Gordon? Because, monitoring the activity of rebelling teens has always been a challenge.
It has always been a challenge to monitor the activity of children and young people. They often talk about wanting to have their own privacy, to not have the adults looking over their shoulder. Young people report in finding ways to get around, going on, certain websites and social media platforms when their parents have asked them to reduce their screen time. But we know that the the ban would give parents an opportunity to refer to, we now have a law, but the implementation is very challenging of this. It's going to be challenging for parents in the household to actually enforce this. It may cause disagreements and conflicts within the household, but we're not seeing the Australian government really outline or give parents guidance on how to really navigate what might be very difficult terrain within family relationships.
And therefore, Professor Faith Gordon, what do you feel is the optimum way out in this sort of a situation?
Well, I was part of drafting a letter which over 120 academic researchers in Australia and internationally, as well as some very large charities, signed up to support the letter, which was sent to the Australian Prime Minister Albanese and two of the premiers who are discussing the issues of social media at their state level. We outlined that a ban was too blunt an instrument, and as an alternative, systemic regulation that has the capacity to drive up safety and privacy standards on platforms for all children would be much more beneficial. We outlined that digital platforms are just like any other product. They can have a safety standard that's imposed. And we really wanted to see much more attention paid to the development in Australia of the Children's Privacy Code and the review of the enforceability of the basic online safety expectations. We also said that there needed to be a focus on supporting and empowering children, families, and carers. And a blanket ban would create a challenge for those children and young people who really feel that their access has been unfairly restricted. And the work of keeping platforms responsible and building awareness of risk and responsibility among all users is a challenge, but it would provide much longer term benefits than simply a blanket ban.
All right, Professor Faith Gordon, thank you very much for speaking with us at Times Network and sharing your perspective on this new proposal by the Australian government on banning social media for children under the age of 16.